friends. Kevin Duragi here. Welcome to the Kevin Duragi Show. I am honestly very excited that you're here. We are putting this together for you. That's true. We are. So whether you're new or getting into real estate, everybody needs a guide. Everybody needs a coach. And I want to let you know that I've been there. I've been actually there several times over. And I want to let you know that that's okay. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a real estate agent. And I'm also a real estate coach, right? I guide people into this process. So let's unpack that for a second, because most people get into real estate because they want success. They're looking for money. They're looking for that golden ticket, right? This is the thing to get me out. Out of what, right? What is success to you? Is it just money? Is it just a title? Is it, I don't know. That's for you to answer. What is success? I am coming up to my 45th birthday around the airing of this show. Will be right around there. Yeah, thank you. But I bring it up because my birthday and like the end of the year have always been down parts. You don't know this yet, but I'm a pretty cheerful person, right? I'm a eternal optimist. I get it. But usually around my birthdays or the end of the year is usually down because I didn't accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish, right? I didn't have that level of success I was looking at. And there's a period of time that one of my partners and friends was like, dude, what are you talking about? I was like, dude, I don't feel like I'm successful. And that's where like words of wisdom from somebody else sometimes is a big deal. It's like, what are you talking about? You have a good family. You have a good wife. Your kids like you, right? Not just love you, like they like you. You have a business. You own properties. You do, like, all these people know who you are. Like, you're very successful. And it was one of those things that just kind of opened my eyes, right? I became awake, or I woke up to the fact that I had all these positive things going on in my life. It wasn't just how many zeros are in my bank account, right? It was the relationships, right? It was all these other metrics that kind of lined to it. My main vehicle for success has been real estate. I'm not here to go out and tell you I have tens and hundreds and thousands of properties. I'm this multi-billionaire. That's not what I'm trying to tell you, right? I'm trying to tell you, I get it. And sometimes you have to start. Sometimes you have to hit the reset button. It happens. It's okay. When you look at success, if you're only using the money metric, you're missing out on a great deal of other things, right? Your legacy, what are you leaving behind, right? What will people actually remember you for? And it's probably not going to be, the $500 or this, or it's going to be the memories you make with them, right? That's not going to be what they remember. Did you have time to go with the kids to do this? Did you have time to be the greatest aunt or uncle? Did you go out and be a good friend, right? What books did you read? These are the things that people are going to talk about. Remember the time. Remember the time when blank. We are building your success. Your success is whatever you want it to be, but let's help build your success. When I got into real estate, well, one, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I just didn't know. I thought it was buy a house, you do this and you turn around, you make money. I didn't have the money, right? That was a big stress for me, right? How am I supposed to buy a house when I don't have any money? Where do I find a house, right? I wasn't an agent at the time. I wasn't working with real estate agents, but I was told of this mythical land of investing. You just buy off-market houses. Okay, boy, that sounds easy, but how do you find them, right? And then once you do, how do you fund them? And then how do you navigate the inspectors and the permits and the money and the transitions and all the paperwork? There's a lot to it, and it was scary. I'll say that again. It's scary, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Everybody needs a guide. Everybody needs to coach, especially when you're breaking into something new. The stigma that a lot of people put in as you become a business owner, you're instantly a millionaire. You're successful. You have a plaque or your name up on the wall. Doesn't mean that. probably means you're struggling with cash flow issues. You're struggling with capital and all these other weights, right? That you didn't know that were even there yet. You know, being an owner operator, you look at things and you're like, wait, I'm responsible for the webpage. I'm responsible for the business cards. I'm responsible for, as you start getting into it and then learning how to scale. Like, it is sometimes a very complicated thing. And that's where I believe you need to give yourself grace as you get into this, because you don't know what you don't know yet. You don't even know the right questions to ask sometimes. Or when you are, it's just like verbal throw up. You're like, you've bought over 100 houses. You just throw up all these questions that you're like, none of that is relevant. You haven't started yet. There's a mythical land of motivated sellers. How do you find this person, right? How would somebody it's not about you, right? It's about that person and solving that person's problem. As we go into this series here, this roadmap of getting into real estate investing or kind of developing a real estate business, it's a roadmap. It's a process, right? It's okay. We're going to walk through it, and we're also going to define different levels of success. If your struggle is money, I get it, man. It's hard. How do you find the money to buy real estate? How do you find the money to expand it? Is it all what's in your bank account? Sneak preview, right? No, it's not. There's more pieces to the puzzle here. And you just need to understand how all these pieces come together. You can find out where you fit. How do you find properties? How do you market to these people? What happens if I mess up and lose money? Oh, right. Everybody talks about all the big gurus. I'm an anti-guru guy if you're new to this. All the gurus tell you like, oh, I'm perfect and this never happens and I own millions of that. Guys, that's not relatable. I don't get it. I've lost money on deals. I've had bad days. It happens. I've had failed businesses. I've had things that just didn't work. Guess what? It's okay. Brush yourself off, get up, and keep going, right? It's weird to think that success is sometimes laden with a bunch of failures. But if you're going to get to a yes in a deal, there's a lot of no's you got to sift through. So if you are dealing, I'll tell you what, let me give you some real life examples. When I got started, I was in corporate America and I was like, man, this sounds fantastic. Real estate investing. Gosh, to me, that was the pinnacle, right? If I could become a full-time real estate investor, I might as well have been walking on water, right? It was a tremendous, because it was unreal. It wasn't something that normal person like me gets into, right? It's typically just a dream. And I talked to my family, I talked to friends, and it reminds me of the story about the crabs in a bucket. You probably know the story, but let me just tell you in case you don't. So if you put crabs in a bucket, they're all at the bottom, so there's 3 or 5 of them, and one says, starts to kind of crawl up. The other crabs will actually grab that crab and bring them back down, right? They don't want that person to leave, right? Because it's safe at the bottom of the bucket. Safe. And what happens? Well, all the crabs die, right? That's going to be dinner. They don't make it. They don't get out. They don't actually support each other getting out. And a lot of times it's the naysayers. Whether it's family, it could be friends. They mean well, right? But you got to be careful. You got to surround yourself with people that are going out and creating success habits, right? You got to surround yourself with the people that think differently. If you're in corporate America and you're struggling with a bad boss, if you're in corporate America and you're not happy with your income, or you kind of want a little bit more, maybe a little excitement, real estate is, man, it is a shiny object. It is fantastic to look at. It's fun to play with. It's cut out for a lot of us, right? Either supplementary or as a main income, right? If you're surrounded around these naysayers, it could be family and friends, it could be a spouse, and they're pulling you down, you got to watch out what that success metric is doing, right? They mean well, right? Like the crab in the bucket pulling the other one down. They want you to be safe. It's going to be uncomfortable going into the next steps. You don't know all the steps. You just don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. You might stumble. You might fall. You might fall into some quicksand. So speaking of quicksand, John Tyson, in his book, Intentional Father, talks about this story about a father and a son going camping in Australia, which is freaking nuts, right? Australia is scary, just like real estate. But father and son go camping, and they're doing whatever fathers and sons do camping. They were probably out exploring, and then they just didn't check in, right? The mom, the kids, the family, they're supposed to be a little check in, and they started getting a little worried. So they sent out a little rescue party to go check out. And then they go through and they found the boy. It's like, oh, great. Thank God we found him. And they pull him out of this quicksand, right? He was stuck in quicksand and just his head and, his mouth was out and he's probably been there a couple of days. And they pull him out and they're like, oh my God, like, thank God we found you. Thank God you're all right. They're like, which direction did your dad go? Did he go this way? He probably went for help somewhere. And he's like, he didn't go anywhere. I've been standing on his shoulders for a couple days. That concept of standing on the shoulders of the people around you, of these giants, is everything. Here, that the dad sacrificed himself to make sure the son was good, right? But we stand on the shoulders of our coaches, our guides, the people who have come before us, our parents, our friends. Every book you read, every podcast you listen to, these are shoulders that start shaping who you are to make better decisions. As you get into the real estate space, there's a lot of people that try to tell you that they're gurus, that their shit doesn't smell, right? There's a lot of people that tell you that do this and everything's going to be fine. I'll tell you what, success is different for a lot of people. If your success is just money, if your success is just a title or just to say how many doors you own so you could rub it in the face of your neighbors, that's not what we're about here. Success includes a healthy relationships, right? It's having a wife that loves you, having a husband that cares, right? Having a family, whether it's blood family, whether it's friend family, it's having those people that are like, I'm glad you're a part of my life. You have that tribe, right? When somebody calls you, that you're happy to pick up. When you call somebody that they're like, thank God you called. I'm so happy to hear from you. This is success, right? It's more than just a ledger. It's more than just a zero in your account. The back zero, not the front zero. This idea of standing on shoulders of giants, of coaches, we're going to come back to this, but this is the premise of all this, is I want to come invite you, right, as we go through this, stand on the shoulders of my wins, right? Stand on the shoulders of my losses. I've been through a lot of struggles. I've been through a lot of quicksand. And I kind of want to let you know, like, I get it. I have the failures. I have the stripes, right? I have the scars of the battles. You don't have to have all the same scars I've had. Like, why don't you get a fast track, right? Why don't you learn a bit more so you could kind of go around that one? Hey, should I do that? No. I went down that road. It sucked. Try this other one. And that's kind of the role of a guide or a coach, is to say, well, you could go that way. You could have success, but maybe wait. One of the things you don't want to become is a motivated buyer. Motivated buyers make mistakes, right? They're overly aggressive on their numbers. They make poor decisions. All their offers look like rainbows, like, oh, well, we'll get this done in 2 weeks. Guess what? That contractor can't get there for 2 months. Did you plan for this? Like, what are your other oops that come into it? So I've been through some quicksand, and I'm just going to share a little bit with you so you understand that I get it, right? That I've been there. I was in corporate America. Turns out I don't fit. I didn't fit in corporate America. I tried it later. Guess what? Still don't fit. I'm that square peg trying to get in a round hole. I respect people who could do it, but I was asleep at the wheel, right? I didn't get it. I wasn't living an enjoyable life. I mean, I was doing the activities, checkbox. I went to school, I got the job, I got the degree, I did the things, but it just wasn't fulfilling. I just didn't feel alive going through the process. and I wanted something more. So corporate America and I, we got a divorce. We left. And I thought it would be awesome. It was a dream to get into full-time real estate investing. So I call it a solopreneur. If you're not familiar with that, just think of, it's the guy wearing all the hats, right? I was in charge of my marketing. So the web page, the mailings that went out, the signature line, the emails, right? I would evaluate houses. I would walk a house. I would do this. I would swing a hammer on a house. I put the money together. I handled the paperwork. I handled the bookkeeping, all the different hats, right, that go into a business. It was all me. There's no one else. I really didn't ask for help from anybody. I really didn't share the burden. And it was a slow start, right? Like a train. It was a slow journey. But once I got going, I started having some success, right? I had a little notoriety. I bought a house, bought a second house, bought 10 houses. You start getting into rehabs and you start, all right, this feels pretty good. The proof of concept works, right? I was having lines of marginal success to this, to a point where I had a marketing budget of, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 and more going out and marketing every month, which sounds amazing, right? And I was swinging the hammer. I was looking at houses. I was building the business. Any money I got, I put it back in the business because that's what I thought you needed to do. And then what happened was something outside of real estate happened. My dad got sick. He actually was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is typically it's a terminal illness, right? Well, it's I watched my dad melt away for 2 years, right? Going through chemo. He had good days. He had bad days. He beat it, pancreatic cancer, and then it came back, and it eventually brought him down. So I say that, but I was one of the main people, right? I was one of the guys taking care of him. My mom was there. I was there, all the siblings. But I try to go up and cheer him up, sit through chemos. I was there to help him through those things. And, you wear the good face, you're happy, you're excited. And then I got to get to work. I got to get this done. And I remember sitting in this rehab. I don't know if you guys have gone through this, but I think you could imagine. Your dream is flipping houses, right? I'm there holding my paintbrush, having my hammer, all the tools are there. And I couldn't do anything. It's like running in sand. Like I was trying to run I was in quicksand. And I was struggling. I was flailing. And emotionally, I was defeated. When the phone rang, I remember this. I was sitting on a paint bucket. I just spent $15,000 plus whatever on marketing. The phone rings. It's a motivated seller. It's somebody saying, I need to sell my house, right? This is my payday. I couldn't even pick up the phone. I looked at I'm like, I just can't do it. I can't take any more on. I'm drowning, right? I was that kid, but instead of sitting on shoulders, I was the one getting sucked under. My business slowly melted away around me. All the success I had, all the extra zeros I had in my account started whittling away to the point where just normal little bills started becoming big deals to me, right? And I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I have that $40. I don't know if I have. Everything was melting away, and it was sad. I felt defeated. I was broken. My dad eventually does die, and it was a beautiful process, right? And this process was very important in my storyline because it was a big deal. And I grieved, and it took me several years that I was broken. During that part, I tried to get back into houses, but it just didn't fit. I was a joint out of socket. I got a family fun park under contract, where go-karts and arcades, and it just didn't come together. I tried to make it work. It just didn't. Tried to go back to corporate America. It didn't work. I made it a couple of months. Like, it wasn't right. I remember I tried to get a job at a large company, and my friend worked there, and he was having some success. And I was like, hey, man, can you get me on? He's like, nah. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a huge company. Just get me in, and I'll be good. He's like, yeah, you don't belong here. I'm not going to put my name out for you. I'm like, you little punk, But talk about being broken. Like, even some of your good buddies wouldn't Like, they knew that you didn't fit in their company. He wasn't wrong, but it was one of those, you try to grasp onto anything that would work to help hold you up, but still you're really not asking for help. You're just sitting in that brokenness. Eventually I found something to kind of break me out. Real estate obviously is a love of mine. And I got hooked up with a group that was a larger homebuyer group here in St. Louis. And they're like, hey, we're looking for, you want to be one of our buyers? I was like, heck yeah. Think about it. If you like buying houses and rehabbing houses, and then you could have as many of the resources as you want to do the stuff you want to do, okay, right? If one donut's good, how about a dozen, right? You just get into this glutton phase. So I started buying one house, two houses, three houses, right, a month. And then it was a couple houses a week. And I got hooked, right? I got three crews, a project manager, an office manager. I had all these things, all these vendors, all these people were working. It felt good that I was bringing all these people work and all this good stuff. And then I realized I was an adult babysitter, right? I was the one shuffling paper. I was the one checking in on things. I was the one doing all the work that I actually didn't like doing, right? I liked seeing the transformations. I liked seeing the neighbors at the houses. I liked waving and getting to know the communities. And here I was like 2 steps away from it. All I saw was checks going in and, line items and profit margins. And, some people would say, oh, that's great. You're a business owner. No, man, it's not the business I wanted. My wife actually pulled me aside and she's like, we went to a bed and breakfast and she was concerned about me. While I was there, a young investor called like, hey, Kevin, I'm doing my first deal. And here's, we got it under contract and here's the different problems that came up. And I gave them advice and kind of we reviewed the deal. I loved it. I loved it a lot. And that's where I came back. I'm like, man, I got to change my course. Rehabbing houses through all these people and all the stuff. It felt good, right? It scratched that ego part. I had the title of a guy who's buying a lot of houses, but I wasn't happy. This is a period that I kind of fell asleep at the wheel of my life, right? I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't there. I wasn't a good dad, right? My kids were doing stuff that I didn't have time to go see. I had to go check out a house. I got to check on the contractors. And it was unfortunate. The company, fortunately, was big enough that they were starting this, they called it affiliate program, but there's 3 of us, right? One guy to do the training, one guy to do the recruitment, and I was the guy to help them get into investing. So I was like, man, this is a great thing. The trainer wasn't quite there yet. And the guy who was doing the recruitment was like, all right, here's our training. He's like, and go, Kevin. So he actually handed me the mic right before one of the meetings. And funny enough, I've never given the mic back. It's just kind of changed it a little bit in format, and here we are. But that's where I kind of loved the idea of teaching and training people how to get into this space, right? I've been behind the curtain of hundreds, if not more, small businesses getting into real estate. I love it, right? Because I've noticed that it's more not about the house, but a lot about all the other stuff behind it, right? The person, right? All the stuff that my previous quicksand experience, right? Struggling, getting through the death of my dad and illness and money and all these different things. Guess what? Other people have those issues, right? Sometimes they're really, really big, different quicksands. So I got involved in this company, and it was awesome. I was helping make decisions. I was meeting a lot of people. My fingerprints were all around it, and it was my family. Like, I loved it. And then suddenly we decided to go different ways. I don't know if you've ever felt that in your company or job you're working with. Sometimes it could be a corporate merger. Sometimes they're downsizing. Sometimes, well, HR says, whatever that is. But in this case, we split and it was fine, but I was devastated. I was lost, right? Here's a guy that I gave several years, and like my identity was wrapped up in this company and all the things we were doing. I believed it. I followed it. I was one of the leaders of it. but suddenly it wasn't there anymore. It's not like you could just change a job position. It just wasn't there. And I struggled a lot. I found new quicksands there, and I was lost. I was, I was a home buyer without a home to buy. I was a speaker without a stage. Like you were. I didn't know what to do. And it was a very hard time for me. If you've ever felt like you lost your identity, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's with, oh, you're known for being this guy, and then suddenly you're not. It's like, oh shit, what do I do? What can I tell people I do? And I struggled with that for a long time. And that's where I found my coach, my guide, right? The shoulders that I stood on to get out of that quicksand, and that was Coach Chuck. Chuck Bauman ran a RIA, or a meetup, whatever you guys call it, where you're at, but an investment group. And I had an investment group. He had an investment group. And I would go and I'd listen to him. Sometimes I'd speak at his stage. But he talked about this, and man, I took notes. You know those meetings that you're like, this is changing my life, right? This information is what transforms things. And his talk was the recipe for success. Chuck now has passed. His legacy is still living on. Like everything I'm telling you now is because of Chuck. Like this is Chuck's information that I get to stand on his shoulders and share with you, right? And hopefully this helps shape your life too. And I'm going to go through this. So this is the recipe for success. So step one, have a vision. We use the word vision a lot. If you don't know what that means, it means like, what do you want it to be, right? Who do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to accomplish? Like, what is it? Where are you going, right? If you don't know that, hey, that's step one. You got to figure out what your success is, right? So have a vision. Step two is get a coach. Find a guide. Find somebody who's been there already. Step three, get a mastermind. A mastermind is basically people on the same journey as you, right? Going to the same destination, building that same level of success. Step four, upgrade your systems. What do you need to be to fulfill that vision, right? What tools do you need? What software, what equipment do you need to be able to do that? And step five, take massive action. Or as Nike would say, just do it. So let's take this down for an example. So say you're trying to climb Mount Everest, right? Your vision is to climb Mount Everest. That's a big mountain, right? Biggest one we got. So step one, you identify your vision, climb the mountain. Step two, find a guide, right? Get a coach. Somebody that's been up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain, right? They've done this. They do this. Step three, get a mastermind. Find a group of people, 3, 5, 10, whatever it is, on the same journey as you are. They're going to be having the same research. They're going to be doing the same stuff as you. Great. Find people on the same journey, the same path that you have. Step four, upgrade your systems. In the example of the mountain, this is stuff like make sure you have your hiking poles, your boots, right? Your sleeping bags, your water, right? Get the stuff that you need to be able to do the journey. And then step five is do it, right? Take the massive action. Go book it on the calendar. Go do the workouts you need to, right? For the high level altitude, start preparing yourself. Go climb the mountain, right? Don't stop just thinking about it. Go do it. That's how you climb a mountain. So if we take the same idea, and this is what I did, I took Chuck's recipe and I applied it to my life with my relationship with my wife. I applied it to being a dad. I remember this very clearly. I looked at some couples that had good marriages, and I looked at what they were doing differently, right? How did they talk to each other? How did they interact? The real life conversations, right? Not just the, pretty leave it to beaver conversations. If you don't know that, Google it. But the idea of some of these relationships, I was watching these people and becoming a better person of it, right? What traits are they doing? What books are they reading? How do they talk? How do they present stuff? I looked at the good dads, right? Gosh, I remember this too. I'm like, wait, these dads want to be at sports practice? They want to be at the baseball fields all weekend? They want to go to the other? I'm like, man, I got things to do, right? Because I was back in the old mindset of I got to go check on the contractors, got to make sure the paperwork's done. I'm like, how do these guys just show up and are happy to be sitting in 100-degree weather watching, like, what am I doing wrong? And I realized it's not about you. It's how can you support your son, your daughter, your loved one. And then when I started applying what they were showing me and teaching me, I started becoming a good dad, right? I was interacting with my kids. I was becoming a good husband, a good son, a good brother, a good friend, right? All these things because I was watching what these other people around me were doing. They became my guides, my coaches, right? They became this an area that I was recognizing all the things that I was asleep at the wheel about, right? I didn't realize success was having friends. It was about reading books and sharing knowledge in real life situations. I remember I was at a poker night with some friends, and I say friends, and successful guys, they're talking about all the things, and they're talking about the good old days, right? Women adventures, drinking adventures, all these adventures that people have had, making money and being man stuff, right? I remember I asked a silly question to a lot of them. I was like, hey guys, like, how are you guys able to make like dinner for your kids? Like, what does family dinner look like, on a given like Tuesday or Wednesday? Do you have time to sit everybody around? And all these guys are like talking about exploits, and they're like, first they usually make fun of it, and like, then sheepishly, some of them start answering like, yeah, we do a lot of fast food. Yeah, we don't really eat together. Yeah, that's just not something we do. Usually I eat something and then she eats something and the kids get their own thing. I was like, here's all these people who are just strutting about their money and all their prestige and exploits. But something as easy as like eating a meal together was something that they didn't have. I was like, wow, this isn't the friends that I needed to become the person I wanted to be, right? It was that crab bucket that I just talked about. It was people, they didn't mean to do it. They just didn't know. And that's where I want to help those people. I want to help other people realize, like, if your success stories are just talking about bragging moments, maybe hang around people that actually want to solve the problems that you have to become the next person, right? Why don't you become somebody to help somebody out of quicksand instead of just bragging about other exploits, right? Become a helper, become a coach, a guide, right, to living better. Use your words and your influence to change people's lives for the good. We have that ability. So it was through Chuck's recipe for success that I started waking up, that I started understanding that there's more to success than just zeros in the bank account. It was through Chuck and his shoulders that I understood these three principles. If you're doing real estate, if you're getting into this side of the world, the side of life, right, being different, there's really three principles you got to look at. These are foundational. You will be on the wrong roadmap if you really take anything else. So I want to make sure you get this. Step one, first principle here, first foundational premise is the most important real estate. It's what's between your ears. Take time to improve yourself, to educate yourself, to apply yourself. Take the time to work on you, right? That's very, very important. Find out what you don't know yet. Step two, second principle, second foundational principle is your personal drives your professional. Work on you, right? So first one is real estate up here. Second one is down here, right? I was emotionally broken. I know what it feels like. I've been lost. I've been broken. I've been sick. I've dealt with big issues, right? It sucks. I couldn't run my business when I was broken. Take the time to recognize and fix that before you step up, before you just call yourself a failure and just throw in the towel. It's okay to get back up. In fact, you become a better person when you do. Brokenness, bad days, stripes on your back, all this stuff happens. That's called life. Get up, though. Don't be embarrassed. It happens, right? The personal drives to professional. I think of, there's a local famous guy here. He was a lawyer, became rich, right? Influence, all the stuff. He was on billboards. And then it became speculation, but he committed suicide. I mean, you could think of some sports people or anything like this, right? You become rich, become powerful, you have influence. And what happens? Well, some don't have a good relationship with their spouse, right? Some start cheating. Some kids don't know their dad, like, you're an asshole, dad, like that type of deal. Some people, their spouse cheats on them because they're not around. Sure, you might have money, you have a title, people know who you are, but maybe you're grossly unhealthy. Maybe you don't live past 50 because you made a lot of bad decisions. Maybe you're an alcoholic. Okay, it happens. But if your level of success is just money, but you haven't dealt with these other things, you're missing it. You're not really successful then, right? Because you don't have a legacy, or your legacy is something you don't want it to be, right? Dad's a fat slob. He doesn't care for us. When they just call you your first name and not dad, it's like, okay, you might be doing something wrong. But step one, or the first step here, the foundational principle, most important real estate is between your ears. Second principle, foundation, is your personal drives your professional, right? Take the time to work on yourself there. And step three, third principle here, is it's all about relationships. It's not just relationships like husband and wife, but it is. It's all about relationships. Your relationship with your spouse, with your family, with your kids, with your parents, right? Relationship with your friends, relationship with money, right? All these things are relationships, and it's all about relationships. If you're out there just for yourself, the lone wolf, the solopreneur, you're missing out. There is more to this. I want to help you unpack all this. My goal is to help you build your roadmap, get into your first deal, get into your second deal, right? Build a successful real estate business for you. It's either supplement or kind of take over what you're doing. It is possible. Mistakes will happen. You will fall. You have your own versions of quicksand. Could be your own relationships. Could be the people you hang around. There are a lot of gurus out there that are trying to take your money, right? They're the people just kind of knocking you over, kind of giving you false hope, right? And just kind of milking you. That's not what we're about. We want to help you get through and have that success. If more leaders are stepping up in the community, right, becoming a better leader in their schools, a better, picking up the trash in the front yard, right, around the school district, like, do your job, man. Encourage other people to do it. People are watching. Those same friends, those same crabs that are pulling you down right in that bucket, get to a different bucket, right? Don't be a crab. Be somebody pulling people out of there, right? It's okay. You might mess up. I did. I have several quicksands that I've been stuck in, right? You have your own. Awesome. Let's fix it. Find a roadmap to get you out. I stood on Chuck's recipe for success and applied it to my life. It changed my life. So much so that I took his recipe and I made it into my version, right? I'm standing on his shoulders. So I have the 7 steps of living a life fulfilled. So this stuff incorporates a lot of what Chuck talked about, but it also gives you a little bit more traction, a little bit more ability to go out and do it, right? Apply this stuff to real life. And this is part of what I'm going to unpack on episode 2 here of this podcast. how to live a successful life, right? What is success? How to become successful in all these different relationships, right? The real estate that we talk about, the emotional drives of professional, the personal drives of professional that we talk about, that the personal drives of professional, right? And then also how it's all about relationships, the different metrics of your relationships. How is success all built? How is this roadmap getting us from A to B, right? A lot of people want to start on D. Guess what? We're not ready for D. Let's start our first steps. Let's start that healthy habits to build the motivation, to build the success metrics to get us to B. Then let's be happy with step B. Then let's go for the next one and the next one and the next one. And we could build out successful metrics for living a successful life. So join us for episode 2 of The Kevin Duragi Show. See you next time.